On this bonus episode of Indie Thinker, we talk about American exceptionalism, what it is, and why it matters to you. Hey, thanks for watching today. It means a lot to me that you took your time to watch this video. Don't forget to subscribe and share it with friends. And then also want to let you know before we jump into it that today our episode is sponsored by Element Funding and the Kevin Blair team. So if you're in the market to refinance a house or to purchase a home, you need to check these guys out. You can take advantage right now of historic low interest rates by going to kevinblairteam.com. Our latest episode of Indie Thinker is an Indie Thinker Roundtable where I gather with three other men and we discuss kind of what's going on in Afghanistan. So I encourage you to check that episode out. It's really, really thoughtful, and I think it really will help you kind of wrap your mind around what's going on in Afghanistan. But in the process of the conversation, I talk about American exceptionalism, and I wanted to dig down a little bit deeper to talk about what exactly American exceptionalism is. So American exceptionalism is a notion. It's a notion that the United States is inherently different from other nations, that the values, political systems, and the historical development of the U.S. are unique in human history, often with the implication that the country is both destined and entitled to play a distinct and positive role in the world. And so I mention American exceptionalism in the episode because I truly believe that here in America we have a privileged position. And I would go as far as to say that we have a privileged moral position. Now, I know some of you are already going to the comments section right now, and you're going to say, America isn't exceptional. It's a neo-colonial, oppressive, patriarchal system that espouses the Nazi idea of a gender binary and the systemically racist idea of a meritocracy. Just hold up for 1 second. See the iPhone in your hand, the Mac computer on your desk, and the freedom of speech that allows you every single day the ability to upload the most ridiculously inane TikTok videos that anybody has ever seen?
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
All of that has been given to you by this great nation. And I know you've probably never been in the armed services and probably never had to fight for anything in your life. So it's hard for you to appreciate it, but it does not undermine the fact that America has and will continue to have a distinguished place in history. It doesn't mean that we're perfect. It doesn't mean that we do everything right. It's not a snobbish, elitist statement that I'm trying to make here. I'm trying to make an objective analysis about what has caused America to be unique and special on the world stage. If it has been, so are we unique? And if so, what makes us that way? Rather than tell you why, I want to show you why. Here's a quarter. On this quarter, on one side, it says, "In God we trust." Now, before you jump to conclusions, no, I don't think we're special because we say we trust in God. There are many people who say they trust in God, and whether they do or not is sometimes suspect. And certainly there's other nations that claim to have Christian leaders and all of that stuff. But what I am saying is that we went one step further as a nation, and we didn't just say we trusted God, but we actually built our nation upon Christian principles. You might call it a Judeo-Christian ethic, and it runs through so much of who we are as a nation. So again, by example, I'll just show you two of our founding documents, all right? Just like this coin has two sides, there's two important founding documents in the United States. One of them is the Declaration of Independence, and the other one is the U.S. Constitution. Now, the Declaration of Independence, the first idea that you see, you come to the second paragraph of the Declaration of Independence, and you see this well-known, often quoted idea that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that we all are created equal and endowed with certain unalienable, that we have certain unalienable rights, okay? So where do we get this from? Well, it comes from a Christian idea. That second paragraph, that phrase, that sentence I just read to you, that we hold these truths to be self-evident, it comes from the idea of the Imago Dei. And that is that humanity, all humans are created in the image of God and therefore have intrinsic value. Now, before you jump to any conclusions and say, oh yeah, well, did we believe that the Native Americans or the slaves in America had intrinsic value? I would encourage you to do two things. One, I would encourage you to check out the difference between Plymouth and Jamestown, two different settlements with two very different ideas. I wouldn't suggest that we always portrayed the Christian values that we said we believed in, but there were certainly some people who did. And then secondly, I would tell you too, that one of the reasons that we were able to end slavery so quickly in America and then able to go through the civil rights era in America is because of this very belief, a belief in God. And if you question that, I would encourage you to go check out the letter that Martin Luther King Jr. wrote while he was in Birmingham. In that letter, he says, "We will win our freedom because the sacred heritage of our nation and the eternal will of God are embodied in our echoing demands." Boy, could you imagine those words coming from Black Lives Matter activists today? It's the thing that's missing from so much of our conversation today, that America is built upon powerful ideas that if we reclaim those, we can truly find what equality is all about. And again, that comes from the beginnings of Scripture in Genesis, where it says that God made man in his image. All right, now what's the second side of that coin? So you got one side with the Declaration of Independence, and then you have another side. America is founded upon a constitution. And in the U.S. Constitution, it lays out the separation of powers, or the checks and balances. From its earliest stages, our founding fathers knew the power of government and knew that it should be limited. Why were they so firm in this belief? Well, after all, they did come from a tyrannical government and a tyrannical dictatorship, but they also knew this. They knew a biblical idea. And that biblical idea is that even though we were made in God's image, that all of us are also flawed because of something called original sin, that each of us have good and bad within us all. So they knew that power would corrupt the human heart, and that absolute power would corrupt it absolutely. Therefore, we need a government with limited powers, with checks and balances. So they developed a document. And I hope you understand how powerful this is in human history. When people have the opportunity to take power, they typically do. But not our founding fathers. They wanted a government with limited powers because they understood the sinful nature of humanity. They understood their own sinful nature because they understood Scripture and what Scripture says about it. So to be sure, there were other thinkers like Montesquieu before our founding fathers that posited this idea, but they firmly knew deeply that we needed limited government because all of us have the capacity to turn in to the thing that we hate the most. But this is the beauty of this nation. This is the beauty of In God We Trust, that our nation was built upon those principles and much more, the Imago Dei and the idea of original sin. So what I'm saying is we are an exceptional nation. I know it. You may be watching the news now and maybe like me and just horrified with what's going on in Afghanistan, or maybe any number of other things. And you may think to yourself, really, are we still a great nation? Well, we are. Because deeply embedded in who we are as a nation is biblical, Christian ideas about God and why it matters to us. It may not always shine, but then again, neither do you or I. But we can do our part to shine by reminding ourselves of these powerful truths. I'd love to hear what you think about it, so don't forget to comment below, and don't forget to subscribe and share this video with friends. Thanks for watching. You can catch brand new episodes of Indie Thinker with Reed Huberman every Monday and weekly bonus episodes to keep you thinking throughout the week. But you have to subscribe and click the bell to be notified when new episodes drop. If you enjoy this content, make sure to like this video and share it with friends.